The deafening crack of breaking rock echoed across the alien research station as another section of the impossible cliff sheared away. Dr. Ezra Ingram glanced up from his geological samples, watching as the massive shard tumbled down the nearly vertical face of Xelion 9's most notorious natural wonder. He smiled to himself, knowing he was about to make scientific history that would stun the entire galaxy. "Status report on the latest analysis, Dr. Marvix," demanded Chief Scientist Velnar, his 4 eyes blinking independently as he strode into the monitoring station. The tall, lanky alien's skin shimmered with a blue-green hue under the artificial lighting, a sign of agitation clear to anyone familiar with Zexian physiology. The smaller alien scientist hunched over her console jumped slightly. "The new data confirms our original findings, Chief. The cliff face is composed of super-compressed metallic hydrogen with crystalline formations unlike anything in our database." Her thin fingers tapped rapidly across the translucent screen. "The gravitational anomaly at the base continues to increase in strength by approximately 0.3% every local day." Velnar's secondary breathing vents flared with annoyance. "And your conclusion remains the same?" "Yes, sir. The cliff is unclimbable by any known species." Dr. Marvix's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "The combination of the gravitational distortion, the razor-sharp crystalline outcroppings, and the cliff's continuous structural degradation makes any attempted ascent a statistical impossibility." Ezra continued pretending to examine his rock samples, fighting to keep his expression neutral. 6 months of undercover work as a human geological consultant on this research mission was about to pay off. The aliens still had no idea who he really was or why he was here. "What about the human?" Velnar asked, lowering his voice to a whisper that Ezra could barely hear. "Dr. Ingram, he concurs with our assessment. His species lacks the necessary appendages and strength-to-weight ratio to attempt such a climb." Marvix tilted her head. "Though he seems unusually interested in our research." "Humans are always curious," Velnar dismissed with a wave of his slender hand. "It is why the Galactic Council permits them limited access to our scientific outposts, despite their primitive technology." Ezra suppressed a laugh. Primitive technology. If only they knew what he had hidden in his quarters. Earth wasn't the technological backwater these arrogant Zexians believed it to be. In fact, humanity had been keeping their most advanced innovations secret for decades, ever since first contact revealed just how predatory some galactic civilizations could be toward developing species. His communication device vibrated silently against his wrist, a text-only message from his handler. "Satellite confirms package in position. Operation Thunderclap is green." This was it, the moment he'd been preparing for. "Dr. Ingram," Velnar called out, finally acknowledging his presence. "Our team is finalizing the gravitational mapping project. Your assistance will not be required tomorrow. You may remain in your quarters or explore the permitted sections of the outpost." Ezra nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Chief Scientist. I believe I'll catch up on some reading." As the alien scientists returned to their work, Ezra carefully packed his sample case and left the laboratory. His heart raced with anticipation, but his exterior remained calm. Years of training had prepared him for this mission, the most important assignment of his career with Earth's Special Operations Division. Back in his quarters, he locked the door and activated the signal jammer disguised as a standard human medical device. The aliens believed it was a therapy machine for his supposed back problems, a cover story that had worked flawlessly. He opened his sample case and removed a false bottom, revealing a compact communication array. "Eagle to nest," he whispered. "Package confirmation requested." A brief static pause, then, "Nest to Eagle. Package in position and active. Weather and gravitational forecasts optimal. You are cleared for Operation Thunderclap at Oro 300 hours." "Copy that. Eagle out." Ezra dismantled the communication device and concealed the parts throughout his quarters in locations that would appear innocuous to any security scan. Then, he lay down on his bunk, staring at the ceiling, mentally reviewing each step of tomorrow's mission. The impossible cliff wasn't just a natural wonder. It was the reason the Zexian Science Directorate had established this research outpost. According to legends that predated recorded history on Xelion 9, the cliff housed something of immense value at its summit. The indigenous population spoke of it as the Cradle of Stars, a technology left by the Forerunners, the mysterious species believed to have seeded intelligent life throughout this sector of the galaxy. For centuries, various alien civilizations had attempted to scale the cliff, and all had failed. The Zexians were the first to approach the problem scientifically rather than through brute force attempts. Their research had confirmed what many suspected. The cliff was not entirely natural. Some ancient technology was generating the gravitational anomaly and possibly the continuous restructuring of the cliff face itself. What the Zexians didn't know, what Earth's intelligence services had discovered through covert operations, was that the technology at the summit was designed to respond only to human DNA. The Forerunners had left gifts for their favored creations throughout the galaxy, and humanity was just beginning to find them. Ezra checked his watch, 8 hours until the operation began. He closed his eyes, using meditation techniques to slow his heart rate and enter a light sleep state. He would need every ounce of energy for what was coming. At exactly 02:45 hours, Ezra awoke without an alarm. He quietly dressed in what appeared to be standard-issue outpost clothing, but was actually advanced tactical gear disguised to look like ordinary fabric. The material could change its thermal signature to match the surrounding environment, making him nearly invisible to the outpost's security systems. He removed a small vial from his hidden compartment and swallowed the contents of military-grade stimulant that would keep him alert and focused for the next 18 hours without side effects. Next came the micro-tools, which he concealed in specially designed pockets. At 02:58, he disabled the security sensors on his quarters door, using a device that mimicked the authorization code of the night supervisor. He slipped into the corridor and moved silently toward the east exit, the one closest to the cliff. The outpost was running on minimal staff during the night cycle, and he encountered no one. Outside, the twin moons of Xelion 9 cast an eerie blue-green light across the rocky landscape. The impossible cliff loomed in the distance, a dark wall against the star-filled sky. Ezra activated his tactical lenses contact lenses that provided enhanced vision and heads-up display information. Immediately, a path appeared before him, highlighting the sensor-free route to his destination. He reached the base of the cliff 20 minutes later, his breath forming small clouds in the cold night air. Looking up, the cliff seemed to stretch infinitely into the darkness, its surface gleaming with the embedded crystalline formations. According to the Zexian research, the cliff was exactly 1,842 meters high, with an average incline of 87 degrees. "Beginning Phase 1, he whispered into his concealed microphone. From a hidden pocket, he removed what looked like a small stone. He pressed his thumb against it, and the device activated, projecting a field that would temporarily neutralize the gravitational anomaly within a 5-meter radius. It wouldn't last long, perhaps 30 minutes, but it would be enough to get him started. Next came the climbing gear, stored in compressed form in various hidden compartments of his clothing. The technology was decades beyond anything the Zexians believed humans possessed: molecular bonding gloves and boot covers that could adhere to almost any surface, a lightweight exoskeleton that multiplied his natural strength 5-fold while remaining virtually undetectable beneath his clothing. Phase 1 complete. Beginning ascent. Ezra placed his gloved hand against the cliff face. The molecular bonding technology instantly formed temporary connections with the rock at a subatomic level, creating a grip stronger than any mechanical device. He pulled himself upward, found secure footing, and began to climb. The first 100 meters went smoothly. The climbing was challenging but manageable with his equipment. The gravitational neutralizer continued to function, counteracting the anomalous force that had defeated so many previous attempts. Ezra's enhanced strength allowed him to move quickly, scaling sections that would have been impossible for an unaided human. At the 200-meter mark, he encountered the first major obstacle, a section of the crystalline formations that the Zexians had described as razor-sharp and structurally unstable. His tactical lenses analyzed the surface, identifying a potential path through the hazardous area. Encountering Formation Alpha, he reported, proceeding with caution. He carefully navigated through the crystal maze, the molecular bonding technology adapting to the different surface. Several times, sharp edges came dangerously close to cutting through his protective gear, but his training and the guidance from his tactical lenses kept him safe. At the 300-meter mark, he felt the first tremor. A small section of the cliff face to his right suddenly cracked and fell away. His sensors indicated the gravitational neutralizer was beginning to fail earlier than expected. Neutralizer at 43% efficiency and dropping, he reported, switching to contingency alpha. From another hidden pocket, he extracted a series of small discs, each about the size of a coin. These were gravity anchors designed to create localized counter-gravitational fields. He placed them strategically as he climbed, creating a path of normalized gravity through the increasingly distorted field. The climb grew more difficult as he passed the 500-meter mark. The cliff face became more unstable, with sections breaking away unpredictably. The crystal formations were denser here, limiting his path options. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cold, and his muscles began to burn from the constant exertion. 600 meters, he gasped, encountering increased resistance. Even with his enhanced strength and specialized equipment, the climb was taking its toll. The gravitational distortion was stronger than their intelligence had suggested, putting additional strain on his body and his gear. He paused briefly to consume an energy supplement and adjust his equipment. At 800 meters, disaster struck. A massive section of the cliff face suddenly sheared away beneath him, taking 3 of his gravity anchors with it. The sudden shift in the gravitational field pulled him downward with tremendous force. His right hand lost its grip, and he swung precariously from his left, dangling over the abyss. "Emergency!" he grunted into his microphone. "Deploying last resort measures." With his free hand, he reached for what appeared to be a standard utility knife, but was actually a quantum tether. He activated it and drove the blade into the cliff face above him. The technology instantly created a stable connection between that point and his harness, preventing him from falling further. Using the tether as support, Ezra managed to re-establish his grip and continue climbing. But now he was behind schedule, and his supplies of gravity anchors were dangerously low. The next 200 meters were the most challenging yet. The gravitational distortions created unpredictable forces, sometimes pushing him away from the cliff face, sometimes crushing him against it. The crystal formations became more aggressive, with several cutting through his protective clothing and drawing blood. 1,000 meters, he reported, his voice strained, condition yellow. By the time he reached 1,200 meters, Ezra was operating on pure determination. His muscles screamed with fatigue, his supply of gravity anchors was exhausted, and his exoskeleton was beginning to fail from the prolonged exposure to the gravitational anomaly. Then, he saw a faint blue glow emanating from the summit. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. According to the mission briefing, this was the first sign of the Forerunner technology activating. It had sensed his presence, his human DNA, and was responding. "Visual confirmation of target," he reported. "The cradle is active." The blue glow intensified, and something unexpected happened. The gravitational distortion began to lessen in the area immediately around him, as if the technology was creating a safe path for his ascent. The crystal formations nearest to him retracted slightly, no longer presenting deadly obstacles. "The target is helping me," Ezra said, amazement clear in his voice despite his exhaustion. With renewed energy, he increased his pace. The final 500 meters were still challenging, but significantly easier than what he had already overcome. The blue glow continued to strengthen, guiding his way up the increasingly stable path. As he neared the summit, the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon. Ezra pulled himself over the final edge, rolling onto a flat circular platform that seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as the formations on the cliff face, but smooth and uniform. In the center of the platform stood a pedestal, approximately 1 meter high, topped with a spherical object that pulsed with blue energy. This was it, the Cradle of Stars, the Forerunner technology that Earth had been searching for. Ezra lay on his back for several moments, catching his breath and allowing his tactical gear to assess and begin treating his injuries. Then, he activated his communication device. Eagle to nest, summit reached, package acquired, await further instructions. Copy that, Eagle. Hold position, extraction team en route, ETA 40 minutes. Ezra slowly stood, wincing at the pain in his overexerted muscles. He approached the pedestal cautiously, his tactical lenses scanning the artifact for any potential threats. The sphere pulsed more rapidly as he drew near, as if recognizing him. According to the mission briefing, he needed to establish initial contact with the artifact to verify its compatibility with human DNA. He removed his glove and slowly reached out, placing his palm against the smooth surface of the sphere. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. The blue energy enveloped his hand and arm, a warm, tingling sensation spreading through his body. His tactical lenses displayed a flood of data. The sphere was scanning him, reading his genetic code, confirming his human origin. Then, the sphere projected a holographic display showing star systems, planets, and what appeared to be navigation routes. Symbols in an unknown language scrolled alongside the images, too complex for his translation software to decipher immediately. Nest, are you receiving this transmission? Ezra asked, knowing his tactical lenses were recording and transmitting everything he saw. Affirmative, Eagle. Data stream is clear. Continue observation. As the holographic display continued to evolve, Ezra became aware of movement at the edge of the platform. He turned sharply, reaching for his concealed weapon, only to find himself facing Chief Scientist Velnar and 2 security officers. I must admit, Dr. Ingram, I am both impressed and disturbed by your achievement, Velnar said, his 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession. No species has ever reached the summit. The statistical impossibility. Sometimes statistics don't account for determination, Ezra replied, keeping his hand near his weapon while trying to appear non-threatening. Velnar stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the pulsing sphere. The Cradle of Stars. For generations, my people have studied this cliff, theorized about what might exist at its summit. And now, a human, a species barely accepted into the galactic community, has succeeded where all others failed. I'm just a geologist who likes climbing, Ezra said, maintaining his cover story. Velnar's skin flushed a deep purple, a sign of intense emotion in Zexians. Please, Dr. Ingram. We detected your equipment activating throughout the night. Your reading in your quarters was clearly a ruse. What I cannot understand is how you managed to neutralize the gravitational anomaly. Before Ezra could respond, the sphere pulsed brightly, and the holographic display changed. It now showed an image of a Zexian and a human standing side by side, with symbols flowing between them. It appears the artifact is suggesting cooperation, Velnar observed, his color returning to normal. Ezra's communication device vibrated against his wrist. Nest to Eagle, diplomatic protocol authorized, reveal mission parameters. This was unexpected. The original plan had been to secure the artifact exclusively for Earth, keeping its full capabilities secret from the galactic community. But something had changed. Chief Scientist, Ezra began, I should be honest with you. I'm not just a geological consultant. I work for Earth's Special Operations Division. We've been researching the Forerunners and their technology for decades. Velnar's secondary breathing vents flared, but he showed no other sign of surprise. I suspected as much. Your interest in our research was too specific, too focused. What you might not know is that we believe the Forerunners had a special connection to humans. Their artifacts respond to our DNA in ways they don't for other species. As if to confirm his words, the sphere pulsed again, and the holographic display expanded, showing more star systems, more routes, and more symbols. We came here to retrieve this technology because we believed it was meant for us, Ezra continued. But looking at this display now, I'm not sure that's entirely correct. It seems to be showing connections between species, pathways that link different civilizations. Velnar moved closer, studying the holographic display with scientific curiosity. These routes, they appear to be more than simple navigation charts. They're showing resource distributions, habitable zones, and what could be communication networks. The sphere pulsed again, and a new image appeared. A galaxy-wide map showing hundreds of points of light connected by a complex web of lines. It's a network, Ezra realized. The cradle isn't just a single artifact, it's part of a system, spread throughout the galaxy. And it requires cooperation to access, Velnar added, pointing to symbols that repeatedly showed different species working together. For several minutes they stood in silence, watching as the holographic display continued to reveal more information. Ezra's extraction team would arrive soon, and he needed to make a decision. His communication device vibrated again. New orders, Eagle. The Council has authorized a joint operation. The Zexians are to be included in the research project. Ezra took a deep breath. Chief Scientist Velnar, my superiors have just authorized me to offer you a proposal. We believe this artifact contains knowledge that could benefit all species, but it requires human DNA to fully activate. We would like to establish a joint research initiative between Earth and the Zexian Science Directorate to study the cradle and its network. Velnar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep consideration in Zexian body language. Such cooperation would be unprecedented. Humans have been kept at arm's length from advanced galactic research due to concerns about your species' aggressive tendencies. Perhaps that's exactly why the Forerunners designed their technology this way, Ezra suggested, to force cooperation between species that might otherwise remain suspicious of each other. The sphere pulsed in what almost seemed like agreement, and the holographic display showed an image of diverse species working together around similar artifacts on different worlds. Velnar was silent for a long moment, then said, I will need to consult with the Directorate, but I am inclined to support such an initiative. Your achievement today has challenged many of our assumptions. The sound of approaching aircraft interrupted their conversation. Ezra's extraction team had arrived. It seems your colleagues have come to collect you, Velnar observed. Will you be taking the artifact with you? Ezra looked at the pulsing sphere, then back at Velnar. I don't think we can move it. I believe it's connected to the cliff itself, part of a larger system. We'll need to study it here, together. The extraction team landed on the edge of the platform, 3 human operatives in advanced gear similar to Ezra's, though they made no attempt to hide it now. They approached cautiously, weapons ready but not pointed at the Zexians. Commander Ingram, the lead operative said. Situation report? At ease, Ezra replied. We're establishing a joint research protocol with the Zexian Science Directorate. The artifact appears to be designed for multi-species cooperation. The operative nodded and lowered his weapon. We've received updated orders confirming the diplomatic approach. The Council is sending a formal delegation to establish terms. Velnar stepped forward. While we wait for our respective authorities to formalize this arrangement, perhaps Dr. Ingram could explain exactly how he accomplished this supposedly impossible climb. Ezra smiled, feeling the weight of his mission finally lifting. It would be my pleasure, Chief Scientist. Though I should warn you, Our technology is somewhat more advanced than we've previously revealed. I gathered as much, Velnar replied, his skin rippling with a color pattern that Ezra recognized as the Zexian equivalent of dry humor. No one simply waits at the top of the impossible cliff without considerable technological assistance. Over the next several hours, as diplomats and scientists from both species arrived at the research station, Ezra explained the techniques and technologies he had used to scale the cliff. The Zexians were particularly impressed by the molecular bonding technology and the gravity anchors, neither of which they had suspected humans of possessing. In return, Velnar shared the full extent of the Zexian research into the cliff and the legends surrounding the Cradle of Stars. Together, they began to decipher more of the holographic display's meaning, discovering that it contained information about similar artifacts on 27 other worlds throughout the galaxy. A week later, a formal agreement was signed establishing the joint Forerunner Research Initiative, with Ezra appointed as the human liaison and Velnar as the Zexian director. Teams of scientists from both species began working together to study the cradle and its network, sharing technologies and knowledge that had previously been kept secret. The artifact continued to reveal more of its secrets, providing information about sustainable energy sources, medical advancements, and transportation technologies far beyond current galactic standards. But perhaps more importantly, it brought together two species that might otherwise have remained suspicious rivals. 2 months after his historic climb, Ezra stood at the edge of the summit platform, looking out over the alien landscape of Xelion 9. The research station below had expanded significantly, now housing hundreds of scientists from both Earth and Zex. Construction had begun on a more accessible route to the summit, not a conventional path, but a specialized transportation system designed according to specifications provided by the cradle itself. Velnar joined him at the edge, his 4 eyes taking in the same view. The Directorate has approved expansion of the initiative to include representatives from the Trellan and Vosparian species, he said. It seems the network was designed to connect not just humans and Zexians, but all spacefaring civilizations. That's good news, Ezra replied. The more species involved, the more complete our understanding will be. There is something I've been meaning to ask you, Velnar said after a moment of companionable silence. When you reached the summit that first day, were you afraid when you saw us waiting for you? Ezra laughed, terrified. I thought my mission had failed and I was about to be arrested or worse. Yet you did not attempt to use your weapons or the artifact against us. That wasn't my mission, Ezra explained. I was sent to discover what was here, not to start a conflict. Besides, something told me that the artifact wouldn't respond well to violence. Velnar's skin rippled with agreement. A wise assessment. Our subsequent research has confirmed that the cradle's energy signature diminishes when exposed to aggressive intent. The Forerunners built safeguards into their technology. From the center of the platform, the sphere pulsed with blue energy, as if acknowledging their conversation. The holographic display above it showed new information details about the next artifact in the network, located in a distant star system on the border between Zexian and human space. Our next challenge awaits, Velnar observed. At least we won't have to climb another impossible cliff to reach it, Ezra replied with a smile. Perhaps not, Velnar said, his skin displaying the pattern for amusement. But I suspect the Forerunners have other tests in store for us. They seem determined to ensure that only those willing to overcome impossible obstacles and work together will access their knowledge. Ezra nodded, looking back at the artifact that had changed the course of the interspecies relations in the galaxy. Sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't the technologies themselves, but the connections they help us forge. The sphere pulsed once more, brightening momentarily as if in agreement, and high above, invisible to the naked eye, new patterns formed in the stars, the first signs of the greater network awakening, ready to guide a united galaxy into a future the Forerunners had envisioned long ago, when they left their gifts scattered among the stars, waiting for the right moment, the right combination of determination and cooperation to be found. Ezra Ingram, the human who had waited at the top of the impossible cliff, had started something far greater than a simple scientific expedition. He had taken the first step on a journey that would ultimately transform the galaxy, proving that with enough determination, nothing was truly impossible.